back to my newest reaction video for Oregairu Season 3. We are now in episode number 8. From when we left off, Hachiman lost to Tamanawa in that fabled rap battle that has just caught the entire anime slash light novel slash manga community to its knees. Also, Hachiman's prom proposal, which was established 2 episodes ago, has finally started taking shape. He recruited Zaimakuza and Yuigahama and the 2 members of the United Gamers Club. What happens next? We'll find out in episode 8. So without further ado, let's go. I just had to watch the entire scene first before the show went into the opening, but I mean already we have skipped a lot of material from when we left off in the last episode. I mean, first off, in the light novel, Hachiman negotiated with Hayama for his help on the prom proposal, not outside in the park during the night, but in Saizeria, in the restaurant, since Hayama is a member of that association for club presidents. Hachiman saw that his inclusion would garner attention towards his prom proposal. That way, people not just inside of the school but outside of school, in other words, the parents that see the prom as a nuisance would be persuaded into allowing it to happen. Sadly, Hayama informed Hachiman that Yukino approached him first, so he was essentially too late to catching his attention. He could have talked to him after discussing with Yukino by the school bench, but alas, it didn't happen. He decided to go for it in Saizeria, but essentially he was too inefficient. He was way too slow to persuade him. Yukino did it instead. Also, after the meeting in the restaurant, once the 4-man party started to disperse, Hayama called out to Hachiman so they can have a private conversation, which then leads up to the first scene of this episode, in which Hayama discusses his past with Yukino. I understand time constraints. It'll take way too long for things to flesh out organically in the anime. They only have like 13 episodes left to complete the entire story, and we're just halfway through volume 13. So I guess the anime studio wants to pick things up and just try to reach a satisfying conclusion. What I also find interesting is that the can of coffee that both men are drinking. Hachiman is drinking that Max coffee, which is obviously his favorite, but Hayama is drinking that like black coffee, like that black version of the Max coffee. Hachiman, when he was in that rut where he was disillusioned with his friendship with both Yuigahama and Yukino, and that he felt so bad about wronging them like that after the Tobei arc and the student council election arc. He felt that he wasn't worthy to drink the ordinary Max coffee that he so loves. But since he didn't felt happy at that time, he resorted to drinking that black coffee, which after drinking it for the first time, he said that its taste was very bitter. But eventually things between them got fixed, and he returned back to drinking that Max coffee, which, oh by the way, was handed to him by Yukino. In seeing that black coffee, it lets you know that Hayama is in that predicament just as Hachiman had been earlier before. And he even squeezes the can while he's recounting his past with Yukino back in elementary school. It's very similar to what happened in Tsurumirumi's case in season 1, or how Hachiman's involvement with her case wasn't fully prepared after the summer vacation was finished, which was then proven in season 2 when she helped out with the Christmas party. Though Hachiman was glad that Hayama telling him that his prom proposal was not the right thing to do. In the light novel, he also said that he was jealous of him.
キキノやその感情をなんて言うか知ってるか？
知ってるよ。男の意地って言うんだ。
Man's pride, you could also call that man's stubbornness from the light novel that I read. I understand that they used a man's pride. It makes more sense in this case. Yeah, they're in the beach now. They're in the beach. They're in the beach. We're now into chapter number 7 of volume 13. I mean, the obligatory beach episode in anime and game. It's a crime that it doesn't happen in any anime. Helping out. Like the nuances of him, like trying to figure out how to work the camera for the photo shoot. It's intricately described in the line-all, but I mean, for this, it only passes for like a few scenes of him just working the camera, like manually working the camera. Time constraints, I get it.
Monko.
That little fucking eye thing. Why can't they be more upfront? Oh wait, this is Oregairu. Being upfront doesn't happen in this. Oh, you're being upfront? Get that shit out of here. We don't need any of that fucking confrontation and like confessions and stuff, like speaking all the truth. We don't need that shit, man. Get that shit out of here. Secretness, secludedness, security, social isolation. We need that. That's what counts in Oregairu. Side-on glances matches perfectly to the theme of the show. Am I fucking contradicting myself? I think I am. Goddamn. Fuck! You know, as it always has been in the case in this anime, not just season 3, is that the majority of Hachiman's thoughts about like any given situation is cut out, and that is no different with his conversation with Hina. I mean, for example, she starts off the conversation with Hachiman by saying that she wants to talk about love, affection, sex, and anything else of the like. It's a very like embarrassing topic for adolescents or teenagers to touch upon, but Hina is not that afraid of talking about it, since she doesn't want any of that stuff, any of that affection, any of that love, any romance. Then she's more than happy to discuss it with somebody else that thinks in the same line as her. It goes without saying what happened in her arc in season 2, since Hachiman helped her avoid the disintegration of her clique. Then she feels that she can confide with like the intimate stuff in privacy with Hachiman. And in particular, when he questioned her if she knew anything about what he's actually doing with the prompt proposal or the purpose of the prompt proposal, she didn't really say anything. She just looked at him as if like, oh really? Like, for what? As it is in the anime, he says like, you know what, nothing. But he may think that whatever he's doing is like done out of secrecy, but from another person, then they'll immediately understand that what he's doing is for this purpose, which is what Hina caught on like very quickly. It's no wonder then that she approached Hachiman with those kinds of words, like everything's going to be fine in the end. There's no way that she's just going to say that and then not have like any attachment to one of Hachiman's major internal conflicts, right? And then after his conversation, Hachiman thinks back to how he relates to Erina in their perception of friendship, and how similar it is, but at the same time how completely different. Though their dynamic with their respective friends are similar, at the same time it's very different. Like Hina in a way was alone, but her purpose into becoming friends with Miura, Yuigahama, Hayama is that she doesn't want to be alone. Whereas Hachiman was forced into that service club with Yuki Noshida because he was half-assing his work for one of Hiratsuka Sensei's assignments. And since that time, that dynamic with her friends has not changed. Nobody has really stepped forward and like given her confessions to like any other member of the group. Whereas Hachiman's is actually changing to a state in which it's entering like an intimate level, where Hachiman really wants to help Yukino for a reason that's not formal. In his mind, he wants to continue to be by her side. So yeah, both of them are very similar, but very different at the same time. Oh no. Oh hell no.
ちゃんと教えてあげ。
That little glance, just like fucking Yukino. Sasugane-san. I happen to notice this, but after the opening scene in the anime, there was supposed to be another one in which Hayama calls out Haruno to talk about what Hachiman said, about how she described his friendship with Yuigahama and Yukino as a codependent one. Maybe they'll include it later on in the episode, like they've done in episodes past. Maybe, we'll see.
春野さんが言ってた共依存って何？この後
And all this time, Yuigahama has not heard of anyone call their triangular friendship as codependent. She has like her own way of calling it, but it's not, in her eyes, it's foreign for her to listen to someone else call her friendship with the two as the codependent one. In Hachiman's eyes, it's very prominent, it's very true. Obviously, the same way is true for Yukino, but Yuigahama says that it's not. And then they cut it off to another scene later on for him to say that. Come on, dude. Come on, dude. What do you mean this has nothing to do with Yuki no Shida? Of course it has everything to do with Yuki no Shida. I mean, that's the fucking reason why you even started this whole shit in the first place. She didn't want you to help out in her prom, so instead you made one of your own. Just to like indirectly assist in her prom to go forward and be approved by the parents, or in other words, her own mother. Of course it has everything to do with her. Are you fucking serious? Like, what the fuck? Like, if it didn't have anything to do with Yuki no Shida, then why the fuck am I watching this show? I can just leave this fucking room and just say, well, I had a nice ride, I guess I have to leave. You know? But that is not the case. His prom proposal was done for the sake of Yuki no Shida's. He can't help it. Hachiman can't help it. He feels that he needs to help her no matter what, because that's what his heart desires.
ゆきのちゃんは助けを求めてない。君は勝手にやってる。だから共依存じゃないそんなの。言葉の上だけの話でしょ。
Hachiman is keenly aware of what his explanation for doing the prom proposal sounds to Haruno. In the light novel, he was very careful in saying it out loud. He's careful enough to go to this degree so that she can be convinced of helping him in leaking out his prom proposal to the parents. I mean, because after all, Haruno is the one that has been like very observant of her little sister's relationship with Hachiman and Yuigahama. Sure, this conduct from Haruno has been like described over the years as like slightly devilish, but she's only saying this type of stuff with Yukino in mind, her little sister in mind. She said yes to Yukino's wish of being independent, so in accordance to her wish, she's making sure that her wish comes true, or she's making sure that no one else interferes in changing Yukino's wish. You can say that Haruno calling her sister's friendship with the two as a codependent one is done in a way to secure her wish. She's making sure that nobody changes it. It's why she gave Hachiman that glance, you know, that upwards glance that is obviously similar to her little sister's. It's very terrifying, but I mean, since she is the older sister of this person in which he has coined the Ice Queen in the beginning of the show, of course Haruno is going to be icy as well. Yuigahama is right in this case. I mean, it goes without saying that if you don't talk to another person for a while, you'll just abandon them in the future. That's why Yuigahama has tried to continue communicating with Yukino, such as the last episode when she tried to reassure their friendship by promising to like do playful activities or do fun activities after the prom, like going to the movies or getting some ice cream or taking the scenes in the park, you know, stuff like that. She has to do it because Yuki no Shida's definitely not going to do it, since after the prom she'll attempt to end it, while Yuigahama was rationalizing why it's troubling for her and Yukino and Hachiman to simply end things, but end things by not communicating each other from the preparation of the prom until the actual prom. Her appearance was all sunken. It was very gloomy and grim. It must have taken a lot of her emotionally to say what she said out of her mouth.
春野さんが言ってた共依存って何？
Yeah, Yuigahama didn't know anything about the codependent thing until Haruno pointed it out in their conversation in the cafe. Hachiman, at his best, described what codependency means with a little bit of words in the light novel, which gave her the hint of how she should take it. But in doing so, she says that calling their friendship a codependent one is not the only thing that one can describe it as. There are many other words out there that people can use to describe another relationship that is similar to Hachiman Yukino and Yuigahama's. So it's not like Hachiman has to take what one person said to him as literal. In accordance to Hiratsuka Sensei's reasoning, he can continue to search for what it means to him. Because after all, calling them a codependent one is only comes from the mouth of a person that's not within their group. It's not completely alright for him to take what Haruno described as fact. But Hachiman is essentially doing so because he believes that what she said is right. It's counteracting with their characters and their personal growth. In order to stop that decay, he saw it best to step away and to just allow them be and to just let them return back to their original state before he entered the service club. That was cut out. Very disappointed. But Hiratsuka calling out Hachiman is very interesting. Does this mean we're in volume 14? I think we're in volume 14 now. For real. I think we're in the last chapter. Chapter 8 of volume 13. Yeah. Sorry about that. I think we're in chapter 8. I fucking love it. The mom also has that fucking vicious glance. Just like their daughters. Just like her fucking daughters. The foundation of that iciness that Hachiman first saw in Yuki no Shida. He saw it finally laid in bare with her mom.
引き換え8万です。
引き換え
That's his one card. That's his one card. He used it to his advantage. Wow. They actually used the flashback. Like they actually showed what the accident looked like. That caused Hachiman to be a loner. The one in which he saved Sable, Yurigahama's dog. I didn't expect this. Oh, what the fuck? Oh, that's awesome. I fucking love it. I mean, we only seen like freeze frames of it during season 1. That was during the time in which Hachiman found out that Yuki no Shida was in the car that collided with himself on the road. She knew about it, but she didn't tell Hachiman the truth. But then after fulfilling his duties in the cultural festival, and then afterwards, that was basically turned into water under the bridge. But yeah, this is very interesting. I love it. So many things had to go right for him in ensuring Yuki no Shida's mother's approval. He knew right off the bat that his real enemy wasn't Yuki no Shida's mom, but the people that ordered her into protesting against the organization of the prom, which is like the parent teachers organization or like the parent organization, but that's what it is. Well, there you go. There it is. So that conversation that Hayama had with Haruno after the opening scene in this episode has been pushed ahead for right now. In this case, Hayama, after hearing Hachiman call his friendship a codependent one, he called Haruno just to say, what made you call his relationship as a codependent one? And then she says it in relation to what has happened between Hayama and Yuki no Shida in the past. Like I said before, what with the rampant bullying and the negativity and the seclusion and all of that and all of that mess and all of that mess. Remember, this happened in the same night. What happened with the time in which Haruno, Hachiman, and Yuigahama talked was like a day or so later. But the anime decided to change up the timeline. Whatever works in their case.
やっぱりさっきの違うと思うんです。
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that they were going to leave out the interludes until later, and now here it is. Yeah, because the first one was like interlude. It was like interlude 5. The first one was the 5th interlude of the volume, and now that is followed up with the 6th one, which happens after chapter 7. This episode has like an irregular pace, but you can't help it. And this interlude. Perception is once again the name of the game here. In another person's eyes, what Hachiman and Yukino are doing is very is very excruciating, because if they just take another like more simple route in settling their differences or settling their troubles, then they wouldn't have to go this fucking route of facing off against each other with the school prom. But alas, that's how they chose to do it. And under that context, it makes sense for Yuigahama to call herself the most mature one, because essentially Hachiman and Yukino are acting like children because they're not sure of how to deal with their friendship, with their personal friendship. It's something that like children would do. But Yuigahama, since she has been the most experienced within the three in doing those friendships and sustaining those friendships and molding those friendships, she has to work vigorously in bridging the gap that those two are forming. And under that construct, she sees it as unfit for Haruno to call their relationship as a codependent one. I mean, both of them are trying to stay away from each other. Well, I can't really say much about that for Hachiman's case. He still wants to attach himself with Yukino. Yuigahama's the one that's trying to isolate herself, and Yuigahama is much more peculiar in her own case. She wants to follow through with her own wish of staying with Hachiman, but at the same time she still wants to be friends with Yukino. It's very troubling. But, well, then again, she wants her friendship to stay as such for the foreseeable future, which therein lies Haruno's reasoning of her being dependent on them. She wants to depend on Hachiman and Yukino, but she wants to be selfish at the same time. You know, she wants to have Hachiman for herself, but still be friends with Yukino, as like before. Yeah, one or the other. Even pointing out this sort of mental and emotional conundrum just drives any person insane. I mean, it's why Yuigahama cried so very deeply in front of Haruno. It's very painful. She wants to do one thing and the other at the same time. She just can't. She has to choose her own love or her friendships with the other two. It's very difficult. It's very painful, as she said it. If I was in her shoes, I'd be just as wrought with fear, with sorrow, with sensitivity. Like massive sensitivity.
でも共依存なんかじゃないです。だってこんなに痛いから。
ここから成長する思いだってあると俺は思うよ。
ありえない。そうだったでしょ。
You know there's some bad beef in Haruno and Hayama. I mean, from what Hayama said, he wasn't able to help Yukino in solving her issues with bullying. Haruno, obviously as being Yukino's little sister, took notice of that. And since she knew that it was Hayama that didn't do anything to help Yukino, despite being childhood friends, she resented him for it. That's why she looked at him when she said that's how it was, right? She was referring to the past. She still hates him for what he didn't do for her little sister. And I mean, he knows very well what he did in the past. He fucking explained it to Hachiman in the beginning of the episode. You know, he explained his story as like a warning to Hachiman of what happens should he not do anything to help Yukino. The point Hayama is trying to make is that Hachiman does not do the same mistakes that he did. Moral of the story, don't be a Hayama, because if you end up being a Hayama, then you'll adopt this mask where everybody sees you as this quintessential being, as a man that does no wrong and everything right, the one that doesn't want to have any of his friends change for whatever selfish reason they have, such as love, romance, anything else of that matter. If there comes an opportunity for you to change it, then you'll obviously shy away from it. That's the essence of Hayama Hayato. That's the kind of character that Hachiman talks about in his internal monologues. Not just in this episode, but in the light novel as well. Hachiman applauds, curses, makes fun of, praises, and etc. about Hayama. But of course, Hayama is not perfect. He messed up in the past, which is why he is still holding that memory deep inside himself, because he hates him. He hates it so much. He hates it so much that he has changed his entire character to make up for it. You know that Hachiman was saying so many things about her in his mind that is very positive, very gracious of her appearance. She's too beautiful to him. And that's what he said time in and time out in the light novel. What else can I say?
じゃああなたが決めて。
Why don't you decide? Oh my god, even right there she was kind of dependent on him. That's just her way of saying, look what happens if I keep depending on you. I won't have individual flair.
だからどこかで間違えてこんなまがいものみたいな関係性は間違っている。あなたが望んでくれたものとはきっと違う。
It's not fake!
私も大丈夫。
It's not fake to him! That contest from the very beginning, the one that Hidetsuka Sensei laid out, the winner can order the loser to do whatever they want. She's talking about that one. Now with that, Yuki no Shida says farewell. What's she gonna do with that key?
どうかこれが正しい終わりでありますように。
I mean, if she had to suffer that much in actually saying it to Hachiman for him to carry out, I'm not sure if that is actually the one that she in herself truly desires. It's in the same way that Hachiman prayed last episode that Yurigahama and Yuki no Shida and him would stay together in the service club. Whether they like it or not, both scenarios is going to end in someone crying, or someone will take the worst part, such as being alone. Nobody's going to be happy by the end. It has to be someone who will not be happy. You could see that Yuki no Shida was trying to convince herself that this answer that she came up with was the correct one. She called her friendship with Hachiman a fake one, even though Hachiman silently retorted with his immediate expression. Regardless, that is a sacrifice that Yuki no Shida has made. She has decided to focus more on her independence and is willing to return to her loneliness than impede on her friend's happiness. With that, the service club that all three have known has ended, and Yuki no Shida has started his own. She decided to break it up because she saw it as the best way to do it. But well, despite sacrificing himself on numerous occasions, he honored Yuki no Shida's wish and just left the service club without wondering when he'll ever come back to the room. Or he appreciated being there at Yuki no Shida and Yurigahama's company in due time. And that's how it's going to go for the indefinite future. That reminds me, remember that opening shot where Hachiman turned himself around during the beginning of the opening? I mean, he was very sad while doing so. He looked like he didn't want to see what was in front of him, but he couldn't help it, since not doing so would essentially mean in him refusing to acknowledge it. That has kind of happened in this episode. Isn't that appropriate for this final scene of episode 8? For real? Oh. Wait a minute. Oh, yes.
本当に可愛らしい人だと思う。こんばんは。
Interlude. Are we starting volume 14? It's gotta be volume 14. For real.
けれど、それももう終わり。多分、私がずっと好きだった。好きなままの綺麗な方。
Yui's interlude next.
それを見て、私は。
Later on in volume 14.
この関係が終わるんだって気づいた。甘いのも苦いのも痛いのも 嬉しいの。
She's here!
私は
I love her. She's finally here. I mean, I don't know what to say after this episode. Once again, it ends on a very sad note. But we're starting off in the next volume now. Right at the very end, in the post-credit scene of this episode, I think we're into volume 14 now. That is the end for episode 8. A very sad one. A very excruciating one. A very lengthy one in material for the light novel. But it was a very good episode. I mean, this episode went all over the place. I mean, it took some interludes. Like, it took a couple of interludes, put one in between of the other, and then it skipped like some parts of the later chapters in volume 13. Well, and since the service club is essentially null and void and Yuki Noshida has asked for Hachiman to realize Yuigahama's wish, we're gonna have to see what happens later. We're gonna have to see the aftermath of the final challenge being essentially closed. We're into volume 14 territory. Based off of the preview for the next episode, we're looking at the true start of the organization of the prom. We see Irohas once again. We see Yuki Noshida, Yuigahama, and Hachiman. It seems that they're going to help out with Irohas in her prom. And also, we get to see that one person that had me all excited at the very end. We'll hold that off until next week, into episode 9. Episode 9, we're closing in on the double digits. And after that, the very end. Oh man, I can't believe it. I've been doing this for like 2 months and I still feel that we're ways off from the conclusion, but time waits for no one and it is quickly approaching. That said, that is it. That is all. Episode 8 is over. This has been Tim Boley Tree / Pedro Romero. And that is all.